half orbital is the disadvantage there is there's less redundancy, but again, we've got the lagoons that kind of help us with that. And so one of the other processes, or one of the other options we're looking at is what we call the intermittent sand filters. And they call it the New Hamburg process because the first one was built in New Hamburg, Ontario. But the disadvantage, or the problem you have with lagoons is they don't do ammonia treatment very well. The ammonia is toxic to aquatic life, so the Ministry of Environment doesn't or sets limits on ammonia. One of the ways to deal with the ammonia is to use an intermittent sand filter at the end of a lagoon to kind of get that ammonia knocked down before it goes out the effluent. So that's one of the options we're looking at. The advantage is it's low tech, it's low cost. You use those existing lagoons. You have the sort of same sludge problem you have today, which really you haven't removed sludge from those lagoons, so you don't have much of a sludge problem. Disadvantage is there's another parameter other than ammonia is phosphorus that's not dealt with very well by an ISF, and it's also big. It's also a big footprint, so it becomes an impact to the existing how much property you've got there.
Just a question on that. Does that comply to Schedule B?
Schedule B.
Mechanical and tertiary? Is it mechanical and tertiary?
It's not mechanical, no. So that it does have that impact, right? It is tertiary, but it's not mechanical. The next one is, like as I mentioned, phosphorus is an issue. The way to get phosphorus out is to use tertiary filters. So another option we're going to look at is using tertiary filters. So filters on the end of the lagoon, the existing lagoons, to kind of get to knock the phosphorus down. The advantage to that is low cost. You don't have the sludge issues. The tertiary filters, because they're mechanical, are smaller footprint than the ISF, the intermittent sand filters, so that it reduces the property impacts. The disadvantage is you're likely going to run into ammonia issues. So you still have to deal with ammonia somehow, and deal with the phosphorus. And again, you're using existing lagoons, so there is a property issue on that site. So our next option was, okay, the intermittent sand filter does ammonia very well, but it doesn't do phosphorus very well. The tertiary filters does phosphorus, but not ammonia. So how can we sort of pull all that together? So our next option was using aerated lagoon. So we're adding air into those existing lagoons through an aeration system, so floating type, just floating aerators in the lagoons. We're adding oxygen in there to kind of promote biological activity. Then we have what we call a polishing pond, which is really just a big settling pond. So you mix everything up, aerate it, and then you got to let it settle out. And then we go into what we call the SAGR, which is a submerged attached growth reactor. And all that does is it just does ammonia treatment. So you do sort of the standard stuff, the BOD suspended solids that your current lagoons are doing now. You do it better because you've added aeration, and then you settle out all that stuff that you've treated here, and then you deal with your ammonia through the SAGR process, and then you deal with your phosphorus through the tertiary filter. So that option definitely can use existing footprint.
Will that treat the full build-out requirement, 4,600?
We believe so, yes. Yeah. So that's a fairly low tech. You're using the existing lagoons. We might have to raise the berms a little bit, but to add more water, because they're fairly shallow and there's some oxygen efficiency stuff. But again, it uses the existing lagoons. It's continuous discharge, so you don't need to have that storage held for the.
Does the aeration cause more smell?
No. At least in my opinion, is once you aerate sewage, the smells disappear. sewage when it's raw stinks or smells, but the minute you start adding air, the odors go away. And that's typically what we see.
If I can just add, the odors are usually created by anaerobic conditions, which is the lack of oxygen. Anyone knows who's on the septic tank would know what's going on, with the odors from lack of oxygen in sewage. So, but to basically get rid of odors, you always add oxygen. So oxygenated sewage doesn't smell. Or, it's got that sort of musty smell, but there's none of that, rotting, horrible smell that you get from, so you get smelly lagoons from, the ice cover melting, which lack of oxygen under the ice cover, the ice melts, you get, a week or two of smelly lagoons coming out. So if we aerate the lagoons, one, you don't get the ice cover, so you don't have the hydrogen sulfide buildup, and you've got the aerated sewage, so it's the lack of air in sewage that causes the odors.
So there's that option there. Again, it's fairly, I guess it has some cost advantages because we're not pouring a lot of concrete to build that compared to what was there previously. We're using existing lagoons, so you cut down a lot of the excavation, concrete work, the piping, mechanical, all that kind of stuff is reduced as well. So some of the advantages are it has a moderate cost, uses existing lagoons. Sludge issues, the sludge tends to, you keep it in those area lagoons, and they have a detention time of say 40 days of sewage. So like basically that whole 1, 2, 3, which are the 1 and 2 is the area lagoons, and 3 is that polishing pond. So that whole component would be the sewage sort of would take 40 days to kind of work its way from front to back. And basically the sludge stays there. It does start to break down. It would have to be taken out once every 10 years or so, but you're not dealing with sludge on a daily basis. You do get a fairly high degree of treatment. The Sager process takes ammonia down to the 1 and 3 milligram per liter range, which is very good, and even under really cold temperatures. And then the filters, we can get phosphorus again down as low as you want to get, depending on how good a filter you want to put in there. The disadvantage is we're using most of that property at that 47 or 4659 flow. But again, we're still within between the drain and the property to the north. And just the Sager, all it is, and I just have this up here, is it's basically a bed of pea gravel with air in the bottom, so you're providing air, and the bacteria kind of just use the pea gravel to live on and to hold themselves on. It's basically the same concept as a weeping tile run in a septic bed, right? So that you've got your septic tank, which takes up the big lumps, and the stuff that's after that flows out into the tile field, and then the bacteria are kind of living in the tile field, they're living in the sand, and that kind of thing right around the distribution pipe. So that's kind of what it is, although it gets a little more high tech because we add some air and then to help the bacteria do what they have to do.
Excuse me. Sure. Where is a nearby municipal system that uses Sager?
Glencoe is just one that just started out. So it's.
I wouldn't have used the septic bed example.
Okay.
I would have used the intermittent sand filter, because the intermittent sand filter is almost the exact, the Sager